Pleasure and honor of serving as the Senior Scholarship Manager here in Chicago Public Schools. Ultimately, I work for you, and I am so glad to have you here with us on tonight. First and foremost, thank you for checking your emails because that is how you got your invitation. That is going to be a very important component to your senior year. Trust me when I tell you that the money will be in your inbox. So we want to make sure that you continue to check your emails because as you see, senior year has begun. Okay, so we'll be talking more about scholarship opportunities, obviously specifically the Gates. But I want to first share some housekeeping rules. Please make sure that you stay on mute until our Q&A component. We may be able to allow some of you to come off mute, but we would like for you to put your questions in the chat. We'll have a lot of great segments for you. I want to go ahead and move us to the next slide so you can see our agenda for tonight. So I'm going to go ahead and get started with the welcome. That's what I do. You will next, after that component, you'll have a understanding the financial aid eligibility component, which is going to be presented by Mrs. Maria Busio, who is our Director of Post-Secondary Pathways here in Chicago Public Schools. It is really important for you to understand your FAFSA or Pell Grant eligibility because that is a requirement for this scholarship. So we're going to start with that because we've given you information about the FAFSA forecaster. I'm not sure how many of you have done it, but if you've not done it, we want to make sure that you do because that is a very important component for being eligible for this scholarship. After that, we'll go through a deep dive of the actual scholarship. I'll talk a lot more about what the scholarship is, what it requires. You will absolutely be able to have access to this recording. There's only about 600 of you who are going to be on this call tonight, but we know there are thousands of Chicago Public School seniors who are eligible for this opportunity. So of course, we're going to make this recording and the presentation deck available for you after this session. After we do the overview, you will hear from an interviewer, someone who has gone through the interview process with students for the Gates Scholarship. He has some great advice and tips for you. That's going to be from Mr. Luis Narvaez, who is a Hispanic Scholarship Fund volunteer, as well as a part of our Chicago Public Schools team. Then one of the great treats you will have tonight is information from an actual class of 2021 Gates winner, Hashem, who is a Phillips graduate from the class of 2021. And so you'll hear from him. We're going to have a mini interview with him and one of our college and career specialists, Mr. House, who's also serving as our in-house DJ. After that, we will have an in-depth presentation from the Paul University College for Access and Attainment team, who we work with closely to ensure that we can help you through writing the appropriate components for this scholarship. What you put on paper absolutely matters. So our dynamic partners from DePaul, Kate and her team will be sharing more about that. And then last but not least, we will have a Q&A session or segment where you can ask any and every question under the sun until the session is over. So we want you to get ready. We want you to take notes. We want you to be attentive and we want you to listen closely because we have loads of great information to share with you on tonight. So without further ado, I'm going to hand the mic over to my colleague and friend, Mrs. Maria Busio, who's going to walk us through understanding financial eligibility for the Gates Scholarship. Maria?
Thank you, Michelle, and welcome everyone. We're so excited to be with you guys today. I get to talk a little bit about financial aid and money. So I'm going to ask our host to go to the next slide. So the first thing I want to call out, and we're going to be talking a little bit more about the requirements for the Gates Scholarship specifically, but one of the things that you're going to see on the list of requirements is Pell eligibility. And so I want to talk a little bit about what that means. But before I go into that, I do want to give you a tool that you can use today, tonight, tomorrow, soon. It's called the FAFSA Forecaster, and it's a tool that's developed by the U.S. Department of Education. We're going to be talking a little bit about them in just a second. It does give you an estimate of your Pell eligibility, and it does give you an expected family contribution. I'll talk a little bit about what those two things are, but I want to make sure that you guys have this link, and I'm sure you're going to get this deck If you walk away with nothing else today, just know that you can get your Pell eligibility, an estimate of it tonight. And you can go to the link that I put at the bottom of that screen. Again, FAFSA Forecaster. And if somebody can add it to the chat for us, that might help our audience today. Thank you. Next slide. Okay, so the first thing I want to talk about is where the monies are coming from. Typically, there are 4 big sources of funds for you to go to college. One of them is the U.S. Department of Education. The Office of Federal Student Aid is in charge of billions of dollars that go out to our students in the form of scholarships, grants, work study, and loans. The other entity that you need to become familiar with here in the state of Illinois is ISAC, the Illinois Student Assistance Commission. They award one of the biggest grants in really across the country. It is called the MAP grant, or the Illinois Monetary Award Program. The third place that you want to become aware of is the college or university that you're intending to enroll in, or the ones that you're exploring. Oftentimes they will have their own institutional monies or monies that come from different foundations that support them that might be available to you so that you can pay for school. And then of course, private sources. So all those places that you shop at, all those organizations in your community, oftentimes they have private scholarships. So there are 4 major buckets of dollars that you can tap into. The one that we're going to be focusing on today is the U.S. Department of Education. We're going to do that because they're the ones that essentially manage the Pell Grant through the support of the colleges and universities that you will be applying to. Next slide. So this is the FAFSA, the free application for federal student aid. So I've given you a screenshot of the paper application. Each year that color will change, so you'll know that you're on the wrong application if you're looking at this yellow version. Yours will be a different color. I don't know what the color will be. Usually they'll announce it at the beginning of the year. But a FAFSA is your first step in the financial aid process, and it's typically used so that they can issue federal dollars, anything that can be used pretty much at any university that you go to across the United States. The application is free. So just remember there, it's part of the name, right? Free application for federal student aid. So there is no fee for this. So if anyone tries to charge you for this, you come right back to your school counselor and work with them through the FAFSA. We have some of the best experts here at Chicago Public Schools. But remember, the FAFSA is the first step in starting this entire process of getting your hands on some cash. The other thing I want to mention to you guys about the FAFSA is that it becomes available October 1st. Every year it becomes available October 1st, and you start doing this the senior year in high school, and you do this every year until you're done with college. And you will continue to do this even after you're done with your associates, done with your bachelor's, done with your master's, done with your PhD. The way that you can access this is by going to fafsa.gov, and I've put that in blue text in the middle of the screen there. And again, you're going to have to do this every year. Next slide. Now, one of the questions that your parents are probably going to ask you is, what information do you need from me? And so one of the things that I'm going to put a pin on, because I want to talk a little bit more about this, is the Social Security number. It must be correct. If it is not correct, it's going to cause all sorts of issues for you throughout the entire academic year. So the first thing you want to do is make sure that you have a copy of your Social Security card and that you're looking at the numbers on that card. If you're feeling like, well, I know my Social Security number, for this one, you want to double check, triple check, check 10 times. Make sure that that Social Security number is correct. The other thing to keep in mind is that a lot of the information you're going to need for the FAFSA is typically included on the tax forms that your parents completed. So you're going to want to look for that form. Sometimes it's the W-2 form, the 1040, the 1040A, the 1040EZ. Other things that you're going to be looking for is anything that has to do with savings, certificates of deposit, investments, businesses, real estate, that sort of thing. You also want to look at your driver's license number. Now, let me make a pin on this one, because this one is the one that's going to help prove to the colleges that you are, in fact, someone who lives in the state of Illinois. So adding that driver's license is going to help reduce some of the process that you have to go through. And then if you were not born in the US, or if you're not a US citizen, then you're going to need your alien registration number. So these are the 5 or 6 things that you absolutely want to keep in mind. I did put at the very bottom of the screen just a reminder a few years back, there was a change to the tax forms that you're going to be looking at. So you need to look at 2 years prior to the date of your application. So if you're going to be enrolling in college next year, or rather in your case, the following year, 2022-23 academic year, then you're going to be looking at your taxes from 2020. So hopefully that helps you. Next slide. Now, I did want to put a pin on that Social Security card. And the reason I wanted to put out a pin on it is because your number and the name that is on your Social Security card is essentially your legal name. And that is the one that you want to include on your FAFSA. If your name doesn't match, it's going to delay the process. So I'll give you an example. I prefer to be called Johnny. Well, that's the name that we use at home. But for the FAFSA application, you want to use John. And you want to make sure that that number that you're adding to your FAFSA application and to your college applications is exactly what you see on this card. Next slide. Now, the reason that you're doing this application is because we're trying to get to a number called EFC, and that's the expected family contribution. It's just a number. It's a number that is used in a formula that was built by Congress to figure out where to give out the monies and to whom to give out the monies. And so the information that is used to inform this number EFC comes from the FAFSA. So everything that you include on the FAFSA, how many people live at home, how many will be going to college, how much money does mom make, how much money does dad make, all of that information is going to help inform it. Next slide. Now, you're probably wondering, well, where do I find this? And why is it that they're always talking about, look at your student aid report? The student aid report is that printout of what you're going to get after you complete a FAFSA. And that top section where you see my circle is where you're going to find your EFC, your expected family contribution. So once you fill out your FAFSA, you get this report, and that's where you will see it. Next slide. Your cost of attendance for the college, books, supplies, tuition, transportation, all of those things are what we consider cost of attendance. If we subtract your expected family contribution, the colleges come up with something they call financial need. That is what they're going to help try to package for you with scholarships and grants and work study and student loans. So it's very important that we get this EFC number and that we get an accurate EFC number. And that number could be anything. It could be 0, it could be 500, it could be 10,998, it could be any amount. Next slide. Now, some of you on the call are probably wondering, well, who is considered a parent for FAFSA purposes? I'm going to give you something, hopefully you guys will remember this. Simba, my lion here. Typically, it's you include parents if they are step parents, if they are married, biological, and adoptive. You do not include grandparents, foster parents, legal guardians, aunts, uncles, siblings, unless they have adopted the student. In that case, that they now become the adoptive parent. So my A in Simba. Now you're probably asking, well, I still don't get it. Whose information do I have to report? Next slide. So let's assume that you have parents who are not married. Both of them are by your biological parents. These are the people that gave you the beautiful eyes and ears and noses that we have. These are your biological parents. They could be your adoptive parents, or they could be based on your birth certificate, the people that are recognized as your parents. These are people that you will report on your FAFSA. The people you don't report on the FAFSA if they are not married are those that are not your legal biological parents. But if they're your biological parents, even if they're not married, you will report both. Now, the other scenario that oftentimes I get is, well, my parents are divorced or separated. Whose information do I report? You will report the information of the parents with whom you lived the most over the course of the last 12 months. Now, if you're living with both parents equally, exactly the same time throughout the year, then you will report the information of the parent that provided the most financial support. Another question I get about this is, my parent is a widowed parent and got remarried. Whose information do I report? You will report the information of that parent and your new step parent. Hopefully this will help, guys. I know we're going through this very quickly. Next slide. Now, how are you going to sign this FAFSA? To sign it electronically, you're going to need something called a Federal Student Aid ID. And so we call it the FSA ID. We love acronyms in financial aid, beware. So make sure that you get one of those for you as a student and one for at least one of your parents that I described just now. Now, if your parent already has an FSA ID, that is their electronic signature. They can use it again. So if you got it because they were doing their own FAFSA, or they got it because one of your siblings is now in college, they can use that same FSA ID. Now, if you have a parent who does not qualify for a Social Security number, then you're going to print a signature page, something called a signature page, because your parents will not qualify to get an FSA ID. So even though your parents may not have a Social Security number because they do not qualify, they can still sign a signature page. Next slide. Guys, I went through a lot of information. We added extra text on here so that you would have a place to go back to and go through with detailed information. But your best resources are going to be the adults at the colleges that you are considering. You could always reach out to the Illinois Student Assistance Commission. They do have representatives who speak different languages. And of course, you can always reach out to the Federal Student Aid. And I've given you guys their emails, their phone numbers, and their websites. Thanks, guys.
Thanks so much, Ms. Lucio, for sharing all of that important information. I also want to continue to let you all know, we know that this is a lot of information, but do not worry. We are going to be sharing both the presentation deck and the recording of all of this on our YouTube page and in your email. Over 600 of you are registered to participate tonight. So you will get this directly in your email, but we will also make it available on our YouTube page. So look forward to that. I also want to shout out a couple of families. It's so good to see your faces. Miss Inez Polk, we see you multitasking, mama. Thanks for being here. Patrick, I see you with the cool headset. You are listening intently. Thanks for showing up. All right, so let's dig into the Gates Scholarship. Next slide. So what is the Gates Scholarship? The Gates Scholarship is a very highly selective full scholarship for exceptional Pell eligible minority high school seniors. It is the largest scholarship for minority student leaders in this country, okay? I wanna be very clear. Where you are today is a presentation that has been put together by Chicago Public Schools. So none of us works for the Gates Foundation. The majority of us work either for Chicago Public Schools, DePaul University, or some of our partners. So this effort that we're putting forth today has been on behalf of Chicago Public Schools to make sure that our rising seniors are prepared to apply for this exceptional scholarship opportunity. This award will be given to 300 top students, okay? So in the past, there was another version of this scholarship. This one has been in place for a couple of years now, and they will be awarding 300 top student leaders up until 2027. So I know that that seems like it's a bit far away. It's not, but we want you to be counted in that number. And so in order to be eligible for this scholarship, you do have to be a part of one of the ethnic minority groups that is listed here on this slide. So African American, American Indian, Alaskan Native, Asian and Pacific Islander American, and Hispanic American. If you are a student who is mixed between any one of these, you're included, okay? If you have a drop of blood for any one of these ethnic minorities, you are included in being eligible for this scholarship. So again, this scholarship is not just about being able to give students a lot of money. It's really about being able to provide equity for students who are not always provided with the appropriate funding for them to access their education. And in Chicago Public Schools, our seniors always win this scholarship. You'll hear from one today, but it's really important for us to make sure that we give you the information that you need to prepare for this phenomenal opportunity. Next slide. So, an ideal candidate for the Gates Scholarship, what does that look like? Well, one, you have to have an outstanding academic record, which we know you all already have that. Um, Being in the top 10% of your graduating class is important, but what really makes you eligible is having that 3.3 weighted GPA, weighted or unweighted. And so the way that I describe that is that if you see 3.3 or higher on your transcript anywhere, you are academically eligible to apply for this scholarship. And yes, Christian, it is 300 students across the nation who win this scholarship. This is a national scholarship opportunity. And so I think the class of 2021, we might have had about 6 scholarship winners. The year before that, we had 9 scholarship winners. So in Chicago Public Schools, our students do win this scholarship. Another component of an ideal candidate is someone who has demonstrated leadership ability. Keyword demonstrated. So that means that you have to be able to put down on paper how you've been a leader. And I want to be very clear. That can be through community service activities, that can be through extracurricular activities, that can be a leader in your home, in your family, that can be a leader in your church environment. Think about where you lead and be able to articulate that. And then you also have to have exceptional, not good, not great, exceptional personal success skills. So you have to be able to prove that you have some emotional maturity. You have to be able to prove that you have motivation, perseverance. And let me just tell you this class has done something that, only the last 2 classes have done, which is survive a pandemic. So we know that many of you already have the emotional maturity and that you have the motivation and the perseverance because we're seeing you do it every day, but you have to be able to articulate that. Okay, next slide. What does the Gates Scholarship cover? So scholars will receive funding for the full cost of attendance, and the cost of attendance includes tuition, fees, room, board, books, and transportation, and it also may include some other costs. So again, it's important for you to know what the cost of attendance is for the university that you're planning on attending, but the funds provided by the Gates are almost considered last dollars. So anything else that might be covered through other gift aid, the expected family contribution as determined by the free application for federal student aid, anything outside of that, the Gates can support you with. So this is really a premier opportunity for you to get your education covered, okay? The scholarship is also renewable. That means that this scholarship will go for up to 5 years or until graduation, whichever comes first. So we know a lot of college students are staying in a little longer. We're not quite sure of what the experience of the pandemic is going to be like for our students. We know your mental health is really important, and this has been an exhausting season. So the great thing about this scholarship is they're not going to rush you through school, but you should be very focused on getting out, getting through graduation. So this scholarship will be renewable again for up to 5 years or until graduation, whichever comes first, okay? So let's go into a little bit more around the eligibility. You must be a high school senior. We know that that's you. We've actually gone through and identified the rising seniors, and technically you're an actual senior at this point because this scholarship application is open. So that means that you are a high school senior. Again, you have to be from one of the ethnicity groups that's outlined. And we've tried to look at that as well based on the data that we have in CPS, which is why we sent an email for you to come to this activity. You must be Pell Grant eligible. And that's why we started this presentation off talking about the financial component, because you can have everything else, but if you are not Pell Grant eligible, you cannot and you are not eligible for this scholarship. Now, in Chicago Public Schools, we have over 200 scholarships that are being offered over the course of the school year. There will be loads of great opportunities for you. But this one is very unique and you must be eligible. This is not a scholarship where you try to bend the eligibility criteria and apply anyway. It does not work like that. We really want to make sure, and we drop that FAFSA forecaster link in the chat. We've also provided that to you in your invitation information. So it's really important that you are Pell Grant eligible and that you take some time to sit down with your family after this event is over. And once you get this information in your inbox, to review it and make sure that you are Pell Grant eligible. You also must be a US citizen, national, or permanent resident. Okay. So if you are not sure about your status, please be clear about that, because we do not, again, want you wasting time on this opportunity if you are not eligible. You have to have a minimum cumulative weighted GPA of 3.3. Now, this is where it gets kind of tricky in the language. It says a GPA of 3.3 on a 4.0 scale. Well, technically, the weighted scale is not 4.0, but this is the rule of thumb. If anywhere on your transcript you see 3.3 or higher, whether that is your weighted or unweighted GPA, then you are academically eligible to apply for this scholarship. Additionally, students who are planning to apply for this scholarship must plan to enroll in a full-time 4-year degree program at a US accredited, not-for-profit, private, or public college or university. So if you are interested in going to a 2-year school where you would get an associate's degree, you would not be eligible for this scholarship. It must be a 4-year institution that meets the criteria that is listed here on this eligibility slide. All right, next slide. So important dates. This scholarship is really about the dates, okay? One of the reasons why we're having this session today is because technically the application for the Gates Scholarship is open today. And we want to catch students before you just throw anything in your application, because this application is actually just a survey at this point. It doesn't seem like much if you've been on the website, which we'll share that website with you as well. But if you've been on the website and you started to click through and fill out the survey, you have actually begun to apply to the scholarship. It is not extensive and it at this phase 1 component, but it is a big deal. Anything that you put into that survey is what's going to be reviewed as your application. So right now, the summer of 2021 is the Student Recruitment and Gates Qualifying Questionnaire, which again, it's a really funny way of saying that's the application. All right, so that is available beginning today, July 15th through September 15th. So this won't be open very long, and we want to catch you before you get in the hustle and bustle of beginning school. But that is the Gates Qualifying Questionnaire window from July 15th through September 15th. It is currently open. The next step in the process will be a verification and selection. So the Gates team and the folks who run this particular, administer this scholarship, which is the Hispanic Scholarship Fund, they will go through a verification and selection process. Okay, so literally what you put in the Gates Qualifying Questionnaire will qualify you to move on to the next phase. The next phase will begin December 3rd. And so that is when a larger component of the application will open up that will include essay questions. And so that will be between December and January, where 2,000 semifinalists will be selected. So let me go back. Today, the Gates Qualifying Questionnaire will open. September 15th, it will close. Between September 18th and December 2nd, the Gates team will go through a verification and selection process. From there, they will be selecting students to complete the essay component. So you won't even get to answer an essay question if you don't put your best forth effort in that Gates Qualifying Questionnaire. And I know you're itching to figure out, well, what's in the Gates Qualifying Questionnaire? Our partners at DePaul are going to walk you through what that questionnaire looks like, so we can give you a quick glance and help you start figuring out how you're going to navigate completing those questions. So after the September through December period, 2,000 semifinalists will be selected, and there will be a reading and final documents due. So there'll be a component where they'll read through your essay questions, and then they're going to ask you for some final documents. So you have to make sure when they're asking for those final documents, which are going to be associated with your transcript, at that point, you have a 3.3 GPA. All right. So please make sure that you don't put in effort around this application if you are not eligible for it. And that component will happen between January and February. So January 15th through February 15th will be a reading and review and a requirement of the final documents. Then in February, finalists will be selected. And here's the catch. If you begin to look at what these dates look like, it is literally over the course of your entire senior year that you could be applying for this scholarship. That's how big of a deal this scholarship is. So after potentially being selected as a finalist, you will then be invited to an interview. The interview component becomes very important, so much so that here in Chicago Public Schools, we'll be offering a mock interview session where we'll allow you to come to our mock interview session, give you the opportunity to answer questions as if you're in a Gates interview. The great thing about how we set that up here in Chicago Public Schools is that I've served as an interviewer and a reader. Some of my colleagues have done that as well. So you're working with people who are not making this up. We're actually operating from our experience, having interviewed and read through applications for this scholarship. So we really work to equip you in this district to apply and be successful in this scholarship. So interviews are going to be during the month of March, okay? And something that, again, is very important about this process is that your notifications will happen in your, what is called your TGS, the Gates Scholarship portal. And you will also be emailed information. So again, it's really important for you to check those emails. Then in April, scholars will be selected. So the 300 scholars will be selected. During that interview component, they're interviewing about 600 students. Half of those students will then be selected for the final, to be a finalist for, or to be an actual Gates scholar. So again, the numbers will dwindle down. You see, they'll go from 2,000 to 600 to 300. So it's really important that you put a lot of effort into this. And I see your question, Ivy, do charter schools offer mock interview sessions also? Charter schools are included in Chicago Public Schools. That is why you're here. There is no gray area when it comes to charter school students or CPS managed schools with scholarships. All students who have been invited to interview for the Gates will be invited to have their mock interview session. So the goal will be to make sure that any student who fits into the semifinalist area or category, they're invited to participate in our mock interview session so that we can potentially equip you to go into the interview session with the Gates. Okay, next slide. I know that was a lot of information, but again, we'll make sure that you have access to this. If you've not already visited the Gates Scholarship website, we have a little clip that they provide on their website. And again, you'll be able to review this on your own time and also on their website. So we're not going to go through this clip, but you can absolutely play this when we send you this presentation deck. And I encourage you to do so because it walks you through much of what we've discussed in this overview for this scholarship today. Next slide. This is a really important step. I'm looking at the questions and I'm going to do my best to address those questions. So this scholarship pays for a four-year university or college, whether that be private or public, but it has to be a not-for-profit, it cannot be a for-profit institution, and it has to be an accredited institution, all right? And it has to be in the United States. Good question, Aaliyah. So I want to take a moment to really make this clear here about this scholarship. And where you're going to find information about this scholarship. The gatesscholarship.org is the official website for the Gates Scholarship. You will not be applying on a CPS website. You will not be applying via an email account. You will be applying on the gatesscholarship.org website. So it's really important that you begin to visit that website as early as today, because remember I said the application is open right now. The Gates qualifying questionnaire is open right now, but it is open on the gatesscholarship.org. That is the key for you getting connected to the information. And everything that you will be doing around the Gates Scholarship, the qualifying questionnaire, looking at some resources, creating your student profile will be on the gatesscholarship.org website. And when you get this presentation deck, that will be a live link for you to click directly on. And we encourage you to start your profile now. Technically, if you go to the website right now, you will see a big red button that says apply now, because again, the Gates qualifying questionnaire is open right now. But I don't want you to just jump and begin to apply on the website. We want you to prepare yourself to submit some of the information that's going to go into the qualifying questionnaire, because it is the gatekeeper for you getting to the next step. But this is an overview of what it looks like. And so make sure that after this presentation today, after this session today, that you spend some time navigating through the gatesscholarship.org website. Yes, this presentation will be recorded and it will be sent to every single person who is on the line today. We will also make this available on our YouTube page, Jaslyn. So don't worry, you will get this beyond this point. Yes, the scholarship qualifying questionnaire, that first phase component will close on September 15th, which is why it's really important for you to start paying attention and getting prepared to complete the Gates qualifier questionnaire as soon as possible, but only with preparation. So all of the steps are on the website, yes, but we also have outlined them in this presentation for you. So I want you to pay close attention. And then when we get this to you in your inbox and you review this again on our YouTube page, you will be able to walk through these steps. Great question, Cynthia. Next slide. So again, as a reminder, phase 1, the Gates qualifying questionnaire opens today and it closes September 15th. Now, let me be clear about this. Do not wait until September 15th to complete this Gates qualifier questionnaire. It doesn't look very extensive, but it's very important that you complete it and you complete it well, but do not wait to the last minute. You do not want to be caught up in technical difficulties, websites not working, internet not connecting. You do not want to wait to the last minute. And if I could be very transparent with you, as the senior scholarship manager of this school district, students get caught up at the last minute all the time and miss out on an opportunity because you wait to the last minute. Do not wait. That is why we're here telling you about it today. And we want to make sure that you're getting this information in as early as possible. Maya, great question. Will they be asking about financial information right now? No, they will not, but we've given you information on the FAFSA forecaster. You have that actually in your email and the invitation information. It's also embedded in this presentation, and we'll be sharing this with you after this point. You definitely have to be Pell Grant eligible. Now, here's the thing. You're not going to be Pell Grant eligible next week, and you don't know it. So if you're eligible for the Pell Grant, use that FAFSA forecaster. It will not change between today and next week. So if you're not eligible for the Pell Grant today, you won't be eligible tomorrow, okay? So I really want you to be clear about using that FAFSA forecaster to be honest about your financial situation to know if you're Pell Grant eligible. If you are not Pell Grant eligible, that is okay. There will be other opportunities for you to apply for scholarships. This just won't be the one for you. The FAFSA opens October 1st, but the FAFSA forecaster is available for you right now to put in your same information to get a forecast of what you should be eligible for your FAFSA. So again, I want you to make sure that you're paying attention. Is it better if we complete it by ourselves or with our parents? Chastney, great question. I know at this point of your life, you are a rising senior and you are ready to cut your parents off. You are over them, all of that jazz. This is not the time. Don't do it yet. You absolutely need them because you don't have any financial information without them. So yes, it is great for you to sit down with your parents and potentially walk through the qualifying questionnaire. It's also important for you to walk through this presentation again, and also you'll hear more from some of our partners on what you need to do to make sure that you have a really good scholarship qualifying questionnaire and responses there. So I am not going to keep going. These were some great questions that were coming through in the chat. We'll have a Q&A component after this point. I want to move us on to the next segment of this presentation. Next slide. That is going to be with Mr. Luis Narvaez, who is one of, or he works for Chicago Public Schools, but he's also volunteered with the Hispanic Scholarship Fund and has interviewed actual Gates winners. And so he's going to tell you a little bit more about the interview process. Mr. Narvaez?
Thank you, Ms. Howard. I want to start off by congratulating everyone that got invited to this session. The fact that you've have been identified as an eligible candidate speaks very highly about you and how far you come. But I also want to give a shout out to all the educators and all the parents and family members that have also pushed you to get to this point. So a big shout out to them, sending everyone lots of love as it relates to that. As Ms. Howard mentioned, I have been volunteering with the Hispanic Scholarship Fund, which administers the Gates Scholarship as both a reviewer of applications as well as an interviewer of candidates. And this has been a very insightful process for me because I've been able to identify that a lot of our student applicants may be really good in writing their essay and answering the questions, may not be as as prepared, or might have not practiced as much on the interview side, and vice versa. So I'm glad and I appreciate the opportunity that Ms. Howard gave me to come and speak to you today regarding the interview process for this scholarship. So I do want to give you some pointers, and I'm opening up my cheat sheet here. So give me 1 second. As it was already mentioned, the interview process is the last process. Not everyone gets to this point, so that is also important for you to know. If you are identified as someone who's going to be interviewed, you will be a semifinalist, you could say, and the interview process runs between March 1st and March 31st of 2022. That is the timeline that we had last year, and I anticipate that being the same window this year. So again, from March 1st through March 31st, those of us volunteering get assigned a group of students to interview. The purpose of the interview is to be able to engage you as an applicant and to have you shed as much light as possible on who you are beyond what you already answer on the application through the questions that you are asked, as well as the short essays that you write. So think about the interview process not as a way for you to mention once again everything that you already had stated on the application, but to bring in unique characteristics, something special about you that you might have not had the chance to express in the essay. Our job as interviewers is to evaluate all of your answers and identify key characteristics. We're going to evaluate you on the level of engagement that you bring in. Again, this scholarship is a lot about leadership. So we want to see how well you engage with us, what leadership traits you're able to bring in. And leadership can mean many different things for many students. So do not get stuck with leadership having to be the captain of your sports team or the president of your club. There's different ways that you can demonstrate leadership. Through your employment. If you have to work, you can bring in leadership traits that way. If you volunteer with your church or community organization, that is also another way that you can show leadership traits and different levels of engagement. We're also going to be taking a look at your emotional maturity. How ready are you to go to college and be successful in college, right? This scholarship is looking for candidates who are not only college ready, college bound, all of you are that already, but who can really demonstrate the maturity level necessary to be able to enroll in college and graduate from college as well. We're also looking for candidates that express critical thinking traits. So how well do you answer to prompts that are going to ask you, how would you act if you face a certain problem, right? So how mature are you with that? Um, Lastly, we're going to look at your leadership and service. Are you someone ready to give back to others, or are you someone that keeps to him or herself? So it's something that we're also looking for in the answers that you give. And this will help you give the scholarship organization our overall impression of how well you are prepared as a candidate for this scholarship. So it's very important for you to practice interviews with folks like your school counselor, your teachers, maybe other friends. Come up with questions that you think you would be asked on a scholarship interview and practice those answers. The more comfortable you come out to be, the better we're going to feel that you are prepared to go to college. So for us, it's very important that this is not the first time that you're getting interviewed. So practice as much as possible. Be your authentic self. Um, Needless to say, I know I don't have to tell this to this group, but don't lie. Don't make stuff up. We know that for the last year and a half, your engagement in school and other activities has been very different than it would have been otherwise had we not been living through a pandemic. So just come with your authentic self. And I'm sure you will all do great. Those of you who are able to make it to the interview rounds. Um, but yeah, we're here to answer some questions for you, and then I'll leave my contact information for those who would like to reach out to me via that way. So, Ms. Howard, I'll hand it over to you and see if there's questions that I can answer, or otherwise we can move along with the
Awesome.
program.
Thanks so much, Mr. Narvaez. And again, it's really important for us to make sure that we give you some key information about the interviews. We're also going to, again, make this presentation available for you. So Mr. Narvaez has done this several times, and he actually wrote out some of these tips that have been provided in the presentation deck. So we want to make sure that you take some time to review them so that you understand what this scholarship is looking for, even beyond the essay component, right? So writing is really important. And it's not always just about having perfect grammar, all of that, but it's really about being able to tell your story. And so once you do that in the essays, if you're selected to go on to the interview component, they want you to walk into that interview and tell them something else. Now, one of the questions, and I was an interviewer, I've been an interviewer in the past, one of the questions that always catches the students up is tell me about one of the essays that you wrote. And we get the opportunity to ask you the question about one of the essays that you wrote. Students fumble here because they don't remember. So it's really important for you to make sure that after you go through those essays and write those great essays, copy and paste them somewhere, save them somewhere, go back through them so that you're able to review them. Because when you're asked that question in your interview, if you're able to get to that point and you don't remember what you wrote about, we're gonna notice. Okay, so make sure that you really are paying attention to telling your story. Next slide. I think we're through these slides pretty much. This is a good one. Does the attire matter? So when I was interviewing students, I always gave them a heads up that I wasn't necessarily looking for a formal suit and tie or gorgeous blouse. I was looking for them to share who they are and how they dress. So I remember one interview that I did with a student who actually won the scholarship. He was into thrifting and into fashion. And so this was when we were still meeting in person. And his outfit, when he walked in, we met at Starbucks. His outfit was off the chain. I mean, that boy was fly, but he was not in a suit and tie. He was in a nice sweater, some cool shoes, and he talked to me about his outfit. And so again, it's really about you being able to show and share who you are. This is about your story. No interviewer wants you to come in and talk about somebody else. The interviewer wants you to come in and talk about you. You can potentially bring additional documents and portfolios. The interviews in the past have been virtual. The Gates team has not determined at this point if the interviews for this cohort will be in person or virtual. But if they are virtual, creating something where you can share your screen. I remember sharing with students in the mock interview session, if you are an artist, you might want to consider making your background, if you're in a virtual interview, make the background your artwork. And one of the students at the mock interview session shared like, wow, that's really cool. It's really you. You're the cool one. You just have to find a way to display that coolness on camera. And so again, these are just great tips that we want to make sure that we share with you. And I also want to be very clear, these are recommendations. They are not affiliated with the Gates Scholarship. These are suggestions based on our personal experience from CPS employees who've supported this initiative in interviews in the past. So if you didn't do anything that we said, shame on you. But we cannot tell you that this is what you have to do. We can just talk about our experience with interviewing students and give you some of our suggestions. Okay, so that is all we have on the interview. You'll be able to again go back. You'll be able to go back and review this at another time. And then you also always be able to reach out to us if you have any questions or concerns. So I'm going to move us on. We are doing great on time. This is what we've all been waiting for. Hearing about the scholarship is great. Hearing about folks who've interviewed scholarship candidates is great. But talking to a real, life, loving, amazing Gates scholar is really gonna take the cake. So Hashem, are you here?
Yes, I'm here.
All right. So he is going to talk about his experience. Yes. Come on with the bullhorn. He is going to be, he's going to have a mini interview session with Mr. Herbert House. And what is unique about this relationship that they've built here is that Mr. House was Hashem's mock interviewer when he came to the mock interview session. And this young man, if I could just go ahead and tell y'all the real, he was amazing in his interview, in the mock interview, not because he was trying to be anything he was not, but because he had so much personality and it came through in the mock interview session. And they were able to build rapport. And Hashem was like, listen, I'm trying to win this scholarship, man. I need to keep you in the pocket just in case. I need you to keep helping me through this process. So I'm going to let them talk a little bit more about their experience together. Gentlemen, the floor is yours.
All right, good evening. I'm Herbert House, College Career Specialist for Network 12 and 17.
Hello, everybody. My name is Hashem Bushanov. I attended Wendell Phillips Academy, but I recently graduated, and now I'll be attending University of Michigan in the fall.
All right, so let's get right down to it. Hashem, what motivated you to apply for the Gates Scholarship?
Well, I mean, it was senior year, and I was really wanted to take advantage of my opportunity. My story is a little bit different from everybody's. My family, I just want to be straight up. My family could not pay for my college, so I really was looking to all the scholarship opportunities where I wouldn't put myself in debt and I wouldn't put my family in debt. So I was really just researching and contacting my counselors and all the other programs I was in, like what's the scholarships out there? Like, let's get started, and let's get started early. I mean, around this time, I believe September, October, I was really applying to everything, like from big scholarships to little scholarships. So just really the fact that I wanted to set my life up really motivated me.
So what was the hardest part about applying for the Gates Scholarship?
The hardest part would be really getting to know myself and speaking about myself.
Mm-hmm.
It took a long time to really figure out who I am, figure out my background, and just really understand like what I want to do in this world. And then there was also like an added on part where I had to speak about it. I had to figure out the words and really figure out how to pitch myself to somebody else. And putting both of them components together, it was really the toughest thing that I went through.
What advice would you give a student applying for the scholarship?
Actually, I took a note for this because I really wanted to give some good advice. The first thing I would say is, like I said, figure out who you are, figure out your background, figure out what you like, figure out how you will make an impact into this world, and then be able to speak about it. Take notes, write paragraphs about it, talk to yourself, talk to multiple people. You can even practice with your family, with counselors, or with mentors, and just really get to know yourself. Let them ask you questions about yourself so you can figure out who you are. And the second piece I would say is to always reach out for help, just to always ask for help no matter what, build relationships with anybody and everybody. I mean, really network and get mentors, get help. You can ask your parents, you can ask your siblings, just really practice and just reach out for help because help is out in this world.
So Mrs. Howard had mentioned that you attended the mock interview session. I was your interviewer. What was the best part about the mock interview session? How did it prepare you for your actual interview with Gates?
It actually gave me a like a head start, to be honest. I mean, I came in and I was ready for the questions. To be honest, I actually didn't do so well because I was a little bit nervous, but I actually followed up from the feedback that Mr. House gave me, and I really wanted to build a relationship with him, just for any type of thing. So I asked him, can we re-meet and reschedule another meeting? And after that, it just really took off. I kept on getting advice from him, and I kept on asking for advice so I could be better because I really wanted to achieve myself.
So, are there any questions for anybody who's out listening? Any question from a student or a parent? And while you guys are coming up with that, Hashim, how did you prepare for the essays?
The essays, I did a lot of revisioning. I did a lot of editing, just really double checking, double reading. I sent it because it's funny because I built so many good relationships that I had an actually professional writer that had edited my essay before for this other scholarship. And I reached out to my counselor and I asked her, can you grab her again? And I did, and she actually checked my essay, which was really amazing. So from her help and then really my counselors, my other mentors, it was really just editing and just getting a lot of help on it to just revise it and make it perfect, basically.
We have a couple of questions in the chat. What would you be studying at Michigan?
I'm looking forward to studying, majoring in business finance.
Were there any other strategies you used to develop your personal narrative?
I was just really doing things like finding out what's fun for me, finding out like who I am, and really just learning about my identity.
Cool. Hashim, did your parents or family help you prepare? And if they did, how so?
Yeah, actually, my mother kind of overheard me in the meetings because I was in the kitchen and we didn't have an office area. So everybody would kind of hear me like talking or like prepping for myself. So they would kind of give me tips and be like, yeah, that sounded good. Or that was actually a good answer. I like that. So they kind of did help, which was good.
How many scholarships did you receive?
Besides the Gates Scholarship, I received the Winter Foundation. They're another base scholarship. They're up to $10,000. I received the Alumni Scholarship from my school. And then I received this other 1 year scholarship. It was about $1,500.
Mm-hmm. Who are the people who most supported you throughout your application process?
It's a funny saying, or I would say it's an old saying that my mother always says. She said that it takes a village to raise a child. And I kind of stick by that. And I kind of see that in my life now. I mean, from my counselors to my programs to even Mr. House, it was really just everybody rooting on for me. Everybody supporting me, everybody giving me advice. And I kind of appreciate them for it. And I really do thank them for always supporting me.
How many drafts did you do per essay, if you remember?
I think I did about 4. It was a lot because I went through my other mentor and my other program, and then I went through the professional writer, and we did about 2 revisions with her. So it was about 4.
Mm-hmm. What challenges did you face when you was applying for the scholarship?
I would say that nervousness. I was really just nervous because I didn't expect to really go so far, and I really was like self-doubting myself. But throughout the days, I just really had to stay confident and just keep pushing and say, I'm just looking for the best of it.
2 more questions. What extra activities was you a part of?
I was actually a part of a lot of activities, and I put them all down in my application from freshman year till senior year. I was a part of Student Council, Chicago Scholars. I still am part of that. I'm part of Urban Alliance. I've been part of them since my junior year, and now I'm in an internship with them. I've been part of track, football, and this other program called Higher Sites.
Okay, 2 more questions. Through the stress of the process, how did you keep your composure?
I really I actually asked a couple of times, like to my mentors and and friends and stuff. And I was like, how do you like relieve stress? And they said like drink water, make sure you have like a paper towel if your hands get sweaty. Make sure you breathe, make sure you slow down and pause. Just really like slow down and try to relax during that time.
All right, last question. I know how excited your parents were, but how excited were you when you saw your tuition bill for the University of Michigan at a zero value?
I mean, I was really overexcited. I mean, I felt like overappreciated because like now I see like all my hard work going into something and actually making it happen. So I'm really just extremely happy.
Hashim, I have one more question for you, and we're going to move on. Hashim, did you attend the Gates information session when you were a high school senior?
Like this one, I don't
Yep.
think I did.
Okay.
I don't think I did.
But when you got that email in your inbox about the mock interview session, what did you do?
Yeah, I took advantage of that. I had to sign up because I wanted to practice.
Absolutely. And that is my point. Thank you so much, Hashim, for being with us tonight. We definitely appreciate your insight. You've got some folks who are calling you a hero and inspiration and motivation in the chat. But it's really important for you all to know that you cannot sleep on these opportunities, right? So being here tonight is amazing. I can tell you what else Hashim did. When I wrote him a couple of days ago and asked him to be a part of this, he responded super quick, right? So Hashim was not in the room like this, but many of the Gates scholars for Chicago Public Schools were, right? So we know that right now, some Gates winners are in the room. We know that we'll be able to call on you at the end of next year to be in the same position, to be able to share with students how you were motivated to do this. And like Hashim, I know everybody looks the same right now on these little bitty screens, but Hashim is a football player. He's a big guy. He is not no punk, right? But he was nervous about this opportunity. So it's okay to be nervous. One of the things that I think that's most important about what he said, beyond all the motivation and activities, is that he was not afraid to network, to ask any. And when I tell y'all that boy jumped on Mr. House to make sure that he could follow up with him, Mr. House was writing me like, listen, this young man has brought me back. He wants to make sure that I help him with his scholarship. And that is how you do it. You are not intended to go through this process alone. Everyone won't have a supportive family or people who understand how to get you through this process, but you are here because you're a part of the CPS family, and we want you to know that we will help you get through this process, okay? So thank you again so much, Hashim, for being with us tonight. We're super proud of you. We are so glad that you not only took advantage of Mr. House is proud of you too, clearly. We're glad that you not only took advantage of the Gates scholarship, but you heard him talk about other opportunities, the Winter Foundation scholarship. That is a $40,000 renewable opportunity only for CPS seniors, charter seniors included, right? So Hashim didn't stop with the Gates. He could have said, yo, I'm applying for the largest scholarship. Let me just try to get that one. Nope. He went full speed ahead and made sure that he applied for everything that he was eligible for. And I cannot guarantee that you all will get scholarships. I can't. But I can guarantee that you won't get a scholarship if you don't apply. You have got to be willing to apply. It will not be easy. It will not be fun, but it is necessary because we want you to be like Hashim, getting that school bill that says 0. We want that to be you. And even if it doesn't say 0, we want you to pick up everything. He talked about the Gates. He talked about the Winter. He talked about another $1,500 scholarship. He talked about other programs that he was a part of. You do not have the luxury to just sit in your seat and be in school. You have got to take advantage of these opportunities and make sure that you know how to articulate them. And we have people in place to help support you through that process. So again, shout out to Hashim, shout out to Phillips Wildcats and their counseling team. I know Miss Kay Cashel has been super helpful with him. That is his school counselor. Again, let me tell you, this is not the year to shade your school counselor. We're always excited about our school principals. Your school principal signs your diploma. They do. But your school counselor gives you access to your transcript. They are the gatekeeper. They are very important. So you need to make sure that you're building relationships with the folks in your schools, your college and career coaches, whomever is in your school that is there and willing to support you. Take advantage. And then last but not least, you got to take advantage of CPS Academic Works. Hashim, were you applying for scholarships on the CPS Academic Works website?
Yes, actually, they kind of helped a lot because they opened up. I think part of them was on the winter scholarship. I think that was on the CBS site. So they really
Yes.
do like show everything.
Hashim, you better school them. And I manage the Academic Works website. So again, when we talked about other scholarships being available after this GATE scholarship, we have those available for you. So we want to make sure that you are taking advantage of all the opportunities. CPS Academic Works is going to be a great tool for you. It is not open for rising seniors just yet. We'll have it open for you early August, but be looking for that information and don't sleep at the wheel. You all don't have the luxury of time at this point. You have to work and make sure that you're putting all of your effort forward to get not just into college, but get these scholarship opportunities that will help you pay for them. So thanks again, Hashim and Mr. House. We're going to move on now to another great support that we have in place. You heard Hashim talk about how he had to edit his scholarship applications and scholarship essays over and over and over again. And one of the ways that you can do that is through working with the essay editing support that's provided from DePaul University, that is free, that is intended for Chicago Public School students, and that all you have to do is sign up to get the help. So I'm going to turn this over to the DePaul team, who is a phenomenal partner and has been for years with us here in Chicago Public Schools. You do not have to be interested in going to DePaul, but DePaul is a great school to go to, shameless plug. But the DePaul team is going to talk to you a bit more about their essay editing supports. Go ahead, team.
Hey, everyone. Thanks, Michelle. Wonderful to be here tonight. Thanks for everyone for joining. My name is Kate Agarwal, and I work at DePaul University in the College Access Office. And through my office, we have a team of DePaul students who are trained by our writing center to edit student essays. So we can do any types of essays that high school students are working on, whether it be for an IB research project or an essay they're writing for college admission, or if it's a scholarship essay. Just like the Gates scholarship, we have helped Gates applicants in the past, and we do have students that work for our office that are editors that are trained in this specific thing. And so I have two of them here today. And we have, I just put our website in the chat if you guys want to go to our website. That is how students would submit an actual essay for editing or a request for help with an essay that they're working on. Next slide, please.
All
so
right.
Again, I have two students with me, Natalie and Erin, who work for the College Access Office. And so I will pass this on to Natalie right now to tell you a little bit more about our program.
Thank you, Kate. So yeah, our office helps high school students with all types of essay, just like Kate says. So that includes scholarships, college admissions, and even class for your own classes as well. The best part is that this is free. So here we have a Prezi link. So once you receive this deck of slides, you will be able to click on it, and it's a great way to prep before you actually start writing. Some key points that are in the Prezi is to make sure that you're fully understanding the prompt. Perhaps it may just be a sentence long, but if you analyze it and break it down, you may find that it's asking more than you really think. After that, you have to plan and brainstorm what you want to talk about in your essay, and then organize your thoughts. Always start early. Don't start that same month that it's due, and especially not the night before. You want to go through multiple drafts because we can always improve on our work, right? So you want to get feedback from multiple people. You have our office here to help you out, and you may also want to ask your teachers, counselors. Everyone will find something different. And then in the Prezi, you can also check out some advice from key experts there. Remember that the Gates scholarship is very competitive because there's a lot of money at stake. So your goal is to present yourself as a qualified candidate and that you're worthy of the scholarship money. Next slide. All right, so let's start off with the process of how to submit your essay to our office. First, you will need to click on this link that it's on step 1. It's a very easy form. So once you click on the link, it will direct you to the submission form. We want to know when your essay is due, the essay prompt that you're working with, and then here you will also have a place to upload your document. You can also add a note for the editor. For example, if you want us to look at something specifically, but of course we will take a whole look at your essay. Once you submit the form, you will get matched with one of our peer editors. And of course, feel free to submit as many essays or drafts that you would like. Next slide. So all of our peer editors are trained by the Writing Center here at DePaul, so you are in good hands. Once an essay has been assigned to a peer editor, they will keep in contact with you. Just a quick note, double check that your email address is entered correctly. That way you are receiving our emails, and we will get back to you in 1 to 2 business days. Next slide.
So what we can help with. So as mentioned, we help with all essays, not just for the Gates Scholarship, but we do have students that specialize in the Gates Scholarship, but any applications that you have coming up for college, scholarships, stuff like that, we're here to help. Things that we do are we brainstorm about the topic. So if you're kind of in a writer's block, we can help you with that. We can give you advice on what content to cover and what to leave out. So if you're just kind of overwhelmed, you're over the number count or the page count, we can really help get it streamlined to make it the best essay possible. We can also help with grammar and punctuation. So if you just want a proofreading, we can do that as well. We can also help with essay structure. So if you're not confident with whatever the essay structure is of the scholarship or essay that you're applying for, we can help make sure it's structured properly. We give all sorts of helpful tips and tricks on how to do that, including in the Prezi. We have some tips there as well. And word choice, creativity, and enhancing the engagement. So if we're going through an essay and where you're finding that you're using the same words over and over again, or it's just not a word choice that is proper for the type of essay that you're submitting, we can help you come up with better words and make sure that it's really engaging to the reader. Next slide, please. What we can't do. So we can't write your essay for you. We don't know who you are as a person. We just meet you via online, and we don't know who you are. We don't know what makes you sparkle or who you are as a person. So we really need you to have the bulk done of the essay so that we can work with what you have down on the paper. We like I said, we can't make stuff up for you. So you really need to know who you are as a person. We also can't rewrite parts that have errors in them. So like if the entire paragraph just doesn't make sense or we can't follow what you're trying to say, we'll suggest ways to fix it, but we can't rewrite the entire thing because that goes back to the first part of writing your essay for you. And we also can't guarantee that the essay will win you the scholarship. So I wish that we could just help you to give all the money away, but we can't guarantee that, but we will help you to make it the best essay that you have written and give you the highest chances of winning. Next slide, please. If you have any questions for us, you can visit our website for detailed instructions on how to submit the essay. There's that link again. You can also contact us via email at collegeaccess@depaul.edu with any specific questions that you have. We are a resource and we really want to be here for you. So do not hesitate to reach out to us. We really enjoy working with students and helping you to get that free money because free money is the best. Next slide, please. Alrighty, so we're going to jump into the Gates Scholarship and the leadership component. So next slide, please.
All right, so this phase 1 of the involvement section is actually the gatekeeper for phase 2. So it's not the time to be humble. Make sure you're including everything and anything that you've been involved in throughout high school, even if that's like summer programs or internships. So here's a rundown of what's included in this section: an involvement summary, extracurriculars, sports, jobs and internships, enrichment programs, honors and recognition. So next slide. So this is what the involvement survey will look like. It will be asking you questions, yes or no answers of if you were an elected officer of a school class, have you won an academic honor, have you participated in the science or math fair, and then it's asking you if you received special recognition for good attendance, good grades, honor rolls, writing an essay or poem, have you been named the most valuable player on the sports team, have you received a community service award, Have you participated in a vocational or technical skills competition? Next slide. And then now we'll be adding detail into all your involvement. So here you'll be able to select from 1 through 5 your participation level for each activity group below. So I'll ask you about your participation in a team sport, in an individual sport, cheerleading, dance team, band or orchestra, and drama, club, school player, and musical. Next slide. And then extracurriculars. So if it's not like non-athletic involvement, you could here add up to 12 activities that you've been involved with, and make sure that you include like school and community involvement as well. Next slide. And then sports. So here you'll be able to say yes or no if you've been involved into sports, and you'll be able to add the different types of sports that you were involved with. So they have all the sports here, from basketball, bowling, football, fishing, you name it. Next slide.
They'll also ask you about jobs and internships that you've had during high school. So make sure you're putting your correct employment information down, your job title, and when you how many hours you spent per week, because jobs and internships are also valuable, not just the extracurriculars. So you want to make sure you're adding this to your application as well. Next slide. There's also enrichment, so academic, college prep, and leadership. So these are programs that you can participate in as well. There's different summer programs that you can do. There's a whole list of them listed on this slide, but these are other ways to kind of highlight yourself as a student. They like to see that you are being involved, especially during the summertime. You don't take that break. You're always learning and eager to be involved. Next slide, please. And then honors and recognition. So you want to be very specific. It's kind of different from the survey. You don't want to skip it. If you don't have any recognitions, you want to click the none of the above, but be very specific and click any of the ones that you have participated in. Next slide, please. Alrighty, and now we're going to open it up to questions. Back to Michelle.
Awesome. Thank you so much again for our DePaul team. Again, we know that this is a lot of information that we're providing for you all, but I must admit you all are killing the game on the questions. So great job on providing questions in the chat. I do ask that you continue to put your questions in the chat. This will allow us to ensure that we can cover as many as we can. So Freddie, I see your hand, but I do want you, if you can, to put your question in the chat. One of the things that I also want to note here is that what DePaul is offering, and everything that we've provided for you tonight is free 9 to 9. That means that you will not be charged for any of these services. So make sure that you write down the links and we'll send you this information. Again, you don't have to be planning to attend DePaul to take advantage of these opportunities. They are a great partner for us here in Chicago Public Schools. And so it's really important. This is the hard part. You heard directly from Hashem, who said the hard part was trying to make sure that he edited those essays appropriately. So really make sure that you are taking advantage of these opportunities. We've intentionally aligned the information that we've shared with you tonight, from the FAFSA forecaster information and getting a quick understanding of financial aid, from walking you through the overall process of this scholarship, to talking about the interviews, to hearing from an actual Gates winner, to then going through the editing supports. Please do not take this lightly. When I say that we are the only school district that is offering this in this way, I mean it. And the reason that we're offering it is not because we just think it's a great thing to do, but because we know how important and intentional it is for us to equip our students to be prepared for this dynamic scholarship opportunity. So the Gates process is extensive. We showed you in the timeline that you are literally, if you are selected, applying for the Gates scholarship an entire school year, all year long. So be very mindful of that. You can direct questions to me at the CPS scholarship page, or scholarship email, which is collegescholarships@cps.edu. If you have some questions, you can also visit the gatesscholarship.org, and they have an area there where you can ask questions directly to the organization. So again, we're going to open the floor up for some questions. I do want to go in order. Freddie, I saw that you had a question. If you haven't dropped that in the chat, you can come off mute and ask your question. Go ahead.
Okay, I say kind of by 3 or 2 pretty much. So we complete the forecast to see if we Pell eligible, and we use that CPS website to say, yeah, they put in a chat to see if we can unlock more scholarship when we become the official senior, not rising right now.
So yes, you do use the FAFSA forecaster to help you determine if you are Pell Grant eligible. Yes. The cps.academicworks.com website is an opportunity for you to apply for other scholarships. That is not available for current seniors. We'll be turning that system over next week, so it'll be available to you mid-August. So by the time you're starting school, that website will be available with some scholarship opportunities. But I want you to keep in mind that scholarship opportunities open up over the school year. The Gates is one of the scholarships that opens before the school year begins. So that is why we're being intentional around making sure that we give you an information session on this scholarship alone. But there are other scholarship opportunities that will be able, you will be able to access over the course of the school year. So 200 scholarships aren't going to be open in August, right? They open over time. And so you have to position yourself to be in place to begin to get that information. So great question, Freddie. I want to go to Ms. Inez, who had a question. I saw her hand up at some point. Ms. Inez, if you're still there and you want to ask your question, feel free to come off mute.
I was trying to fix my phone. I didn't have a question. I apologize.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay. We see you working it out. We're glad to have you here. Okay, so we're going to jump to some questions in the chat. Let's see. Is it better to have help applying? Absolutely. It is always better to have help applying. This is not something that we encourage students to do alone, which is why we're introducing you to some of the support that we have in place for you. So you can always reach out to me directly at the college scholarships at cps.edu account, which is listed here on this slide. But always feel free to reach out. Reach out to your counselors. If you have a college and career coach at your school, ask questions. This is not something that we intend for you to do alone. Good question. Can DePaul help students that are already in college in essay writing? Yes, they can. So again, make sure that you reached out to the DePaul team. They've dropped their links in the chat, and we'll also provide them for you in the follow-up to this presentation. Who can you get in contact with during this process? So you can get in contact with me, your CPS scholarship manager, and you can write directly to that college scholarships at cps.edu account. You can also go to the gatesscholarship.org website, which is the scholarship, the Gates Scholarship website, and you can ask questions there as well. And I certainly, again, can't stress it enough to ask your school counselors and your college and career coaches in your school building, because if they're not equipped around this particular scholarship, they know who to come to, which is me, or your network college and career specialist. The Gates Scholarship is not something that we are new to. We do scholarships in Chicago Public Schools, so make sure that you reach out. Good questions. Which scholarship can non-immigrants apply for? So we'll have a number of great scholarship opportunities for all students who are interested in applying for scholarships over the course of the school year. So again, I just encourage you to reach out to our college scholarships at cps.edu account. We'll have resources for you there to sign up for scholarship alerts, as well as getting familiar with the Academic Works tool. Good question. Are in-school activities such as editor for the school yearbook a good activity for leadership? Heck yeah, Aurelie, that is, I'm hoping I'm pronouncing your name right. That is absolutely a great activity for you to list. Something else that I want you to think about for those of you who might be in the National Honor Society or be in a leadership position where your classmates have voted you into that position. Being in a position where someone else has to vote for you shows their vote of confidence for you to be able to do the work well. Okay, so always think about those opportunities. I would encourage you to just write down everything that you think is good and then over time begin to refine that list. So please do write down activities that you've been a part of, where you've been a leader, and use them to refine and put in your application. Are undecided students less likely to win the scholarship? Not at all. Undecided is a major for a reason. That's not a problem. So if you are undecided major, it's totally fine. What you do have to be mindful of is one of the questions that they ask you about, and that you should be prepared to talk about, is your future plans, right? So you may not be able to talk about what career you want to go to if you're an undecided major, but you should be able to talk about some things that you're passionate about, things that you love, things that you like to do. So you need to be able to have some narrative around who you are, okay? I see there's a couple more questions coming in through the chat. We have about 2 more minutes. What do we start doing now if the scholarship isn't open now? So keep in mind, Cynthia, that this scholarship is open now. That is why we're having this session today. July 15th is the day that the Gates qualifying questionnaire is open. But if you're talking about other scholarships just in general, you want to start getting that personal statement together. Hashem told us that one of the hardest parts was figuring out how to articulate who he was on paper. So you want to make sure that you begin to start writing out short paragraphs and writing out an activities resume, a list of the things that you've been a part of, so that you're able to articulate them more effectively when it comes time for you to complete these scholarship essays. I'm going to take a couple more questions and then we're going to wrap this thing up. Can you put the Gates website in the chat? I think some of our chat team has already taken care of that. So please make sure to look back through that. Yep, it's already in the chat. How long should the essay be? 5 paragraphs, great question. So there is a limit on the essays. They limit how many characters and words that you're able to put forth. So again, that is why Hashem was talking about the essays being a hard part, because you have to be able to articulate who you are within a certain amount of words. Okay. And I'm not sure what those are off the top of my head right now, but again, it's really important for you to refine the content that you will be putting into your application if you are invited to complete the essay. Okay. So we hope this was good for you. We have about 1 more minute. On a scale from 1 to 5, on a scale from 1 to 5, tell us how your experience was tonight. 5 being, this was amazing. Thank you so much for having this. 1 being, this is not what I expected. I'm straight. I see you, Patrick. I see you with the 5. Thank you for that. Hey, Adam Player, we see you. Thanks for being here. Ali, we see you. Ara, we see you. Thanks for being here. I love that you guys are actually on camera. If we had scholarship money for folks that were on camera, you guys will win it. So we're going to get ready to wrap this thing up. Again, we have an evaluation.
Excuse me, Michelle?
Sure. Yep.
Sorry, I had a real quick question. I was looking through the questionnaire earlier, and it had a section for like standardized testing. But I saw somewhere in the chat that like they were gonna look at standardized testing. So like, has that changed?
Question.
Or?
Thank you, Daniel, so much for asking that question. So the standardized test question is just that. They are not scoring you on your test score. It is not required for you to submit a test score, but it is an option for you to provide it. So this scholarship eligibility criteria is not based on your test scores, but they do give you an opportunity to put in, if you've taken a standardized test, whether that's the SAT or the ACT, they do allow you to input that information, but you're not being scored or the test score is not a part of the eligibility for this scholarship. So thank you, Daniel, for that. That's a great question. So keep that in mind. If you are not sure about your test score, if you think you didn't do that great, or if you think you killed that thing and you want to put it in there, you have the option to do that. But you are not, one of the eligibility criteria is not the test score. Okay, thanks for that, Daniel. So it is 7:31. Thank you so much for being with us tonight. Please take the time to complete our evaluation. I certainly want to thank all of our presenters for being here with us on tonight. We hope that the information that they shared was helpful for you. And more importantly, we want to thank you for spending a portion of your evening with us tonight. We know how important it is to get this information to you, but it's only as good as how many people show up to get it. So thank you for being with us tonight. Look forward to getting an email in whatever email account that you've registered to participate in this activity tonight. We will have that email in your inbox by Monday. We'll also have this information up on our YouTube site, so look forward to that. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me directly at collegescholarships@cps.edu. You will get an email from me from that College Scholarships account, so you can always reply there. Thank you so much to the moms and dads that I've seen. Jesus, we see your family. Miss Inez, Miss Parker for being here. Thank you all so much. Have a great evening and welcome to senior year. Have a good night, you all.